What if the junk you threw out last week could become the most beautiful thing in your garden today? This isn't about spending money. This is about seeing magic where others see trash. Welcome to Revive Nature, where every forgotten bottle, brick, or tire finds a second life. In today's video, we'll dive into real DIY trash garden ideas you can actually try, no matter your space or your budget. Use the timestamps below to jump to the ideas that inspire you most. And if anything sparks a question, drop it in the comments. I read every one. And if you love what you see, please don't just scroll by. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a small family doing everything to keep a dream alive. When you subscribe, you're not just following a channel. You're helping something fragile keep growing. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. And thank you for seeing me. In the quiet corners of an autumn garden, where tiny yards stretch into intimate sanctuaries, the old finds new purpose. Discarded glass bottles, once tossed aside without a second thought, are reborn as a grove of painted guardians. Each one, hand-painted in hues of lavender, seafoam, tangerine, and rose, stands upright like miniature trees, catching sunlight and casting colored reflections over the marigolds and chrysanthemums below. The fence, once plain and weathered, now breathes with personality. The bottles line its base and top edges like a delicate glass forest, offering both color and texture to the eye. Morning light dances across their glossy surfaces, and in the quiet of the evening, soft solar lights placed within them flicker gently, transforming this fence into a glowing sculpture of warmth and creativity. This isn't just decoration. It's memory, intention, and artistry wrapped in simplicity. Each bottle tells a story, a celebration of reclaiming what's forgotten, a gentle rebellion against waste. Painted by hand, they invite the gardener to slow down, to feel each stroke of the brush, to notice the way colors bloom beside nature's own palette. Clusters of Japanese anemone sway in harmony with the bottles, their pink petals echoing the blush of painted glass. Sedum leans against their base, grounding the vibrant arrangement with muted greens and rustic tones. This garden doesn't need perfection. It thrives in contrast, between soft petals and solid glass, between wild foliage and structured edging. In a small patio or narrow backyard, the painted bottle grove fence becomes more than a border. It becomes a statement that beauty is not bought, but built. With vision, patience, and a willingness to see possibility in the forgotten, any garden fence can become a gallery, and any day can become a moment of creation. In the heart of a small patio, where space is measured in careful footsteps and the air hums with the breath of blooming life, a stack of forgotten rubber awakens. Once weathered and black with time, these old tires now wear coats of mint green, pale coral, and sky blue, each layer reborn with purpose, each one cradling the gentle explosion of fall blooms. This is the colorful tire bloom patio, a quiet revolution in recycled art. What was once tossed in a landfill now rises like a tiered cake of color, its circular forms stacked with intention and grace. From the center bursts the golden heads of Marigold, their brightness softened by the delicate purples of Asters. Chrysanthemums lean out as if peeking into the world, while creeping ivy spills downward like a green waterfall. Against a backdrop of brick, wood, or fence, these painted tires do not merely decorate, they energize. Their pastel hues echo the playful softness of a cottage daydream, and their structure makes space feel layered and alive, even in the tiniest patio corner. It's where a garden blooms upward, not outward. This creation isn't complicated. It doesn't demand blueprints or perfection, only the eye of someone who sees beyond waste, who sees color where others see junk. Each tire, sanded, primed, and painted with love, becomes a pot that holds more than flowers. It holds proof that beauty comes not from what is bought, but what is believed in. And so, in these small, overlooked places, back patios, urban corners, narrow side yards, a splash of tire-painted joy erupts. It invites butterflies to land, neighbors to pause, and hearts to open. The scent of marigold on a breeze of autumn air mingles with the echo of old rubber turned new, a bloom of color that wasn't planted in soil, but in spirit. Beneath the canopy of a quiet garden, where every step feels like an invitation to slow down, a path winds softly through blooming life. It is not a path paved by machines or laid in haste, but one created by hands, memories, and colors. This is the rustic brick mosaic pathway, a celebration of imperfection, of artistry reborn from rubble. Scattered pieces of broken bricks, some smooth, others jagged, find new rhythm in patterns of earthy reds, sea-washed blues, and chalky whites. Once discarded from crumbling walls or forgotten structures, they now form a story beneath the feet. A story of restoration. of breathing beauty into what was once seen as useless. The path doesn't march forward in rigid lines. It curves, it dips, it rises with the land. Each brick is hand-placed, its cracks and chips embraced, its color chosen to echo the garden's palette. Marigolds press close on the sides, nodding in approval. Sedum clusters trail their muted pinks over the edges, softening the borders with lush life. Asters peek between gaps like whispers of cheer. This is a garden for wanderers, for those who don't rush, for those who notice how sunlight dapples differently on each brick surface, how dew clings in the early morning, making the path glisten like a trail of stories waiting to be followed. The rustic brick mosaic pathway is more than a walkway. It is an emotional thread stitched into the landscape. It connects past to present, trash to treasure, idea to execution. In a small backyard or narrow side space, it becomes a grounding element, guiding visitors to a hidden bench, a favorite plant, or simply a moment of peace. And perhaps that is its greatest offering, not just to walk on it, but to walk with it, understanding that beauty is not always whole. Sometimes, it's the broken pieces, arranged with heart, that shine the brightest. As the sun slips behind the horizon, the garden begins to whisper. Not with sound, but with light, soft, golden flickers suspended in the air like memories. This is the quiet beauty of bottle lantern fence hooks, where discarded glass bottles find a second life as lanterns, lighting not just a path, but a feeling. Each bottle, once forgotten on a dusty shelf or tossed into a bin, is cleaned, sanded, and gently transformed. Hung from simple curved hooks along a weathered backyard fence, they glow from within, tiny flames or solar lights sheltered by translucent glass. Amber, emerald, clear, each hue casting a different mood on the blooms below. By day, they shimmer under the sun, catching light and bouncing it playfully across petals of chrysanthemum and anemone. By night, they come alive. The garden fence, once a border, becomes a canvas. Shadows dance between the stems of sedum, and the faces of marigolds turn gently toward the glow. The hooks, too, tell a story. Bent from salvaged metal, repainted in matte black or aged bronze, they hold not just weight, but meaning. A commitment to reuse. A nod to simpler times. They arc like question marks, inviting the eye to look up, to notice, to wonder. There's no electricity needed here. No concrete. No fancy fixtures. Just the patience of hands, the choice of color, the placement of light. In even the smallest patio or backyard space, these bottle lanterns offer atmosphere, warmth in autumn, sparkle in winter, welcome in spring. And in a world that moves too quickly, this humble lighting becomes an act of pause. A way to reclaim time and space with creativity, not consumption. It says, beauty can be made, not bought. That in the soft flicker of a bottle-turned lantern, we find a kind of magic money can't touch. In a tiny garden tucked behind a cottage wall, an unexpected entrance rises, bold, bright, and full of joy. It is not made of stone, nor carved from wood. It is built from what the world once deemed worthless, old rubber tires. But here, painted in a chorus of cheerful tones, they become the thrifty tire archway, a gate not just into a garden, but into imagination. Each tire is sliced, shaped, and sanded, its curve repurposed into architecture. Painted in mint greens, butter yellows, ocean blues, the arch does not pretend to be grand, yet it welcomes with more charm than any wrought iron gate. It stands proudly at the threshold of a small yard, its colors glowing against the soft greens and oranges of marigolds, chrysanthemums, and trailing Japanese anemone. The arch frames not only the entrance but also the spirit of the garden beyond, a place where upcycled beauty reigns. Beneath its arch, sedum thrives, cool and grounded, and vines flirt with its painted flanks. This is where guests pause, smile, and step lightly into a world where creativity blooms alongside the flowers. There is a special kind of wonder that comes from repurposing, from bending what once rolled across asphalt into a form that inspires awe. The tire, once dusty and discarded, now catches the light, its soft pastel coat glowing like a storybook portal. Children touch it, curious. Adults marvel, intrigued. All are drawn inward. This archway is not about perfection, but purpose. In small spaces where every inch matters, it offers vertical interest, visual delight, and a symbol of thoughtful design. It says, this is not waste. This is welcome. It teaches us that even in the smallest of yards, we can create grandeur, not with expense, but with intention. With hands that paint, with eyes that dream, with hearts that see beauty in what others pass by. And under the thrifty tire archway, something always begins, a stroll, a story, a season of growth. In a space no wider than a shadow, where garden beds end and fences begin, something tall begins to rise, a tower not built of steel or pride, but of quiet intention. This is the stacked brick flower column, a vertical whisper of artistry in a horizontal world. Old bricks, mismatched and softened by time, are chosen not for symmetry, but for soul. Each one is brushed with new life, painted in dusty pinks, worn sage, and the soft gold of autumn sunlight. Stacked with care, they become pillars of texture, contrast, and possibility. Between each layer, a secret space blooms, a tucked-in pot of marigold, a draping strand of sedum, or a pocket of moss hugging tightly to the sides. In small gardens, where every square foot matters, these columns reach up rather than out. They invite the eye to climb, to explore, to follow the floral ascent. Asters nod from mid-level gaps. Japanese anemones lean in from nearby beds, catching the breeze and sharing the spotlight. These columns are more than decorative. They are a reimagining of what vertical gardening can be, humble, handmade, and grounded in history. The bricks may once have formed chimneys, pathways, or walls. Now, they stand as sculptural hosts to life, reassembled with purpose and painted with hope. Set beside a pergola or nestled into a narrow patio corner, the stacked brick flower columns bring rhythm and height to places often overlooked. They break the flatness with charm, offering bees a place to dance and gardeners a reason to pause. And perhaps that's their quiet gift, to remind us that even the most ordinary materials, stacked thoughtfully and softened by color, can become towers of beauty. They don't rise to the sky, but they do reach hearts. With every flower that blooms from their crevices, they say, we were broken. Now we bloom. And in that blooming, tiny yards feel infinite. In the quiet corners of a patio where walls once stood bare and forgotten, color now spills downward like rainfall. This is the bottled bloom wall for small patios, a tapestry of flowers born from bottles once tossed away without care. Each bottle is rescued, reshaped, and reborn. Some are glass, others plastic. All are painted in soft, garden-washed tones: dusty lilac, moss green, pale terracotta, and mounted carefully to the wooden fence that hugs the edge of a tiny patio. They do not hang with extravagance, but with grace. In each one, a new life begins. Marigolds burst from the necks of old soda bottles, their golden heads glowing against the wood. Asters drape gently from cut-open water jugs, their purple petals falling like ribbons. Between them, soft mounds of sedum nestle comfortably, bringing texture to the cascade. Even Japanese anemones reach outward, their stems trailing from the smallest slits in recycled plastic. There is movement here, not in the structure, but in the way the flowers reach for light, in how the air flows between bottle and bloom. The wall itself becomes more than a surface. It becomes a living canvas, breathing with each breeze, whispering stories of transformation. In places where space is precious, a narrow patio, a back alley, the side of a townhouse, this vertical bloom wall offers not just greenery, but joy. It lifts the eye, invites the hand, and rewards those who linger. But it is not only beauty that it brings. It is proof that nothing need be wasted. That color can be coaxed from trash, and life can spring from what others throw away. With patience, vision, and just a bit of string and soil, the most humble bottle becomes a cradle of bloom. The bottled bloom wall doesn't ask for perfection. It only asks for love, and in return, it gives the kind of garden that feels both intimate and infinite. Near the heart of a small backyard garden, where reflections ripple and dragonflies dance, a pond rests quietly, not vast, not grand, but personal. Encircling it is a border unlike any other, shaped not from stone or brick, but from what was once the forgotten frame of a journey: tires. This is the upcycled tire pond edging, where discarded rubber becomes a ring of blooming poetry. Each tire is halved or quartered, softened by sanding, then painted in tones borrowed from an autumn sky: soft lavender, cream, pale jade, and blush terracotta. Set into the earth like petals themselves, these arcs hug the pond's edge, forming pockets of soil that cradle bursts of seasonal life. Marigolds glow like captured sunlight, their blooms mirrored in the still water below. Sedum leans low, tracing the tire's curve with soft pinks and succulent greens. Between them, Japanese anemones stand tall, their delicate flowers reflecting the calm elegance of the pond. Here, water and flower meet through color and curve, through intention and reuse. The edge of a pond often goes unnoticed. But not here. In this garden, it becomes the centerpiece, not because of its size, but because of its soul. The tire, once worn by roads and time, now gently frames stillness. It supports not only flowers, but the idea that nothing is ever truly waste. It's a quiet act of rebellion, against blandness, against forgetting, against throwaway thinking. In its place, creativity flourishes. These upcycled borders don't shout for attention, they whisper with charm. They curve naturally into the land, softened by moss and surrounded by blooms, offering a view that feels both wild and designed. In every drop of water that touches the painted rubber, there is a hint of transformation. And as petals fall and seasons turn, the pond remains a sanctuary, made possible by hands that looked at an old tire and saw the shape of beauty. Along the fringe of a humble garden bed, where flowers meet the soil and stories touch the earth, a subtle brilliance emerges. Not from marble or stone, but from caps. Tiny, overlooked circles of metal and plastic, transformed into intricate mosaics. This is the bottle cap garden edging mosaic, a symphony of color born from waste. Each cap is a dot on a painter's palette. Red cola tops, blue water lids, green tonic rings, white soda seals, collected over seasons, cleaned, sorted, and set with care. When arranged in cement or pressed into clay borders, they become a vibrant edge, patterns of swirling vines, blooming petals, or geometric echoes from nature. The edging does not merely contain the garden, it elevates it. Marigolds lean playfully toward the shimmering caps, their own colors mirrored in the design. Chrysanthemums rise just behind, their lush fullness gently anchored by the order of the mosaic. Sedum creeps forward, softening the contrast with its succulent textures. These cap mosaics are more than decor. They are daily reminders that the smallest things, when collected with patience and intention, can build something extraordinary. Where once these caps sealed bottles now long forgotten, They now seal the space between wild bloom and bare ground, giving structure without harshness, order without sterility. And in this, there is joy. Children pause to trace the patterns. Guests lean closer, surprised by the artistry of it all. Each bottle cap holds a memory, a gathering, a gift, a quiet moment, now embedded in the garden itself. This kind of edging doesn't require wealth, only will. It doesn't require newness, only imagination. It teaches that color doesn't have to be expensive, and borders don't have to be boring. In a world seeking sustainability, it becomes a quiet testament to the beauty of reuse. In every curve of the bottle cap garden edging mosaic, there is celebration. A dance between form and flower, a dialogue between trash and treasure, and a reminder that even the smallest disc, when placed with care, can outline the shape of something beautiful. There is a sacred kind of stillness in a garden, the pause between bloom and breeze, the hush beneath a pergola. In this moment of quiet, the brick-lined cottage garden bench base becomes more than furniture. It becomes an anchor for memory, a seat for thought, and a structure built from the bones of yesterday. The bench is simple in form, yet rich in soul. Its seat is wooden, smooth to the touch, aged by seasons. But it is the base that tells the deeper story, formed not of store-bought stone, but of reclaimed bricks. Each one bears a mark of time, a chip, a crack, a stain. Brushed clean, painted softly in sage, cream, and earthy blush, they are stacked with care, not perfection. Set beneath a pergola, flanked by vines and fall flowers, the bench becomes part of the landscape. Chrysanthemums bloom at its feet like nature's rug. Asters nod along the fence. Sedum spills over the edges, softening the square lines with its full, forgiving foliage. Even the Japanese anemones lean close, their petals catching the filtered light. This is not a bench for watching phones or ticking time. It's a place for tea, for journals, for quiet. A retreat carved from salvaged pieces, from bricks that may once have framed a fireplace, held up a garden wall, or lined a long-forgotten path. By giving them new life, the gardener doesn't just save materials, they save stories. Every seated guest feels the weight not only of rest but of renewal. The bricks support not just wood, but intention. They carry the spirit of resourcefulness, the elegance of effort. The brick-lined cottage garden bench base is proof that structure can be soulful, that comfort can be created without waste. In tiny patios or shaded corners of a small backyard, it offers both function and beauty, a grounding presence among the living. And when you sit here, with the scent of marigold in the air and the shadows of vines playing on your lap, you understand. This bench was not built. It was become.